Everyone's talking about AI as if it was just a bubble. But in this video, I'm going to show you that's not the case. The reality is actually much more serious. Between the destruction of the academic system, the collapse of the economy, and even the potential end of our civilization, the dangers AI exposes to go far beyond a simple speculative bubble bursting. Hi everyone, I'm Fantastic, and today I'm going to explain you why AI is probably the biggest technological issue human has ever encountered. But before we begin, let's agree on one thing. AI is maybe more than a bubble, but it's still a bubble. It costs investors 100 times more than what it gives back, and as for now, there is no clear sign it's gonna get any better. So before we continue with the real dangers I cited before, I would still like to talk about the baseline problem, the bursting of the AI. The AI bubble itself is not a bubble like the others. In principle, when a bubble bursts, it leaves behind impoverished investors, but the technology or the speculative asset itself is still there. Take the dot-com bubble as an example. The internet was still there after the bubble burst, and plenty of websites were widely used. Or take the real estate bubble. The houses are still there. They won't rot away in 5 years. In the majority of bubbles, the asset remains useful. It's just its value that plummets. AI is very different. Even before the bubble has burst, very few AI businesses are profitable. 80% of them are failures. The overwhelming majority of AI businesses do not find the public. The asset, like AI itself, suffers from a huge adoption problem. If you want to know more, I've made a special video on the topic, go check it out. We are talking about 90% failure rate, while AI is still benefiting from investor and government money. In your opinion, what will happen when the bubble bursts and the investors realize it's a dead end? Who will still fund the millions of overpriced electronic components, the power plants, and the astronomical salaries of researchers? AI cost will skyrocket and research will slow down. All the infrastructures that depend on AI will suffer heavily. If you are among those who believe that AI will become cheaper with time, keep in mind it's not certain. And as far as I'm concerned, I think the complete opposite. AI is probably at its cheapest right now. It's not systematic that the technology becomes cheaper over time. And we have a recent example with Uber, which between 2010 and 2019 cost less than a bus ticket in some cities. In reality, it was the investors who were paying for 50% of the ride. With the rise in interest rates, investors began demanding profitability. The technology became twice as expensive when it stopped to be subsidized. AI today is very heavily subsidized. Gemini, Claude, Llama, ChatGPT, none of them are close to be profitable. So when the IV drips will stop, AI prices will increase. Research will slow down, lack of means, so there will be fewer and fewer new models, thus less hype, and this will become a vicious circle. Some companies like OpenAI will probably collapse for lack of revenue, dragging down many businesses that depended on them. If there is one thing you should remember from this video before we go deeper in details, it is what I just said. AI is a different bubble from the internet one. I insist on this because people often make the connection between the two, as if all bubbles were necessarily internet bubbles. The dot-com bubble had a reasonable end, the AI one will not. But even if it did, there will be another major issue, and that's education. I want to talk about the issues known to the general public, such as an AI tutor can be wrong, that it can be used to cheat, etc. Mainly because these issues are either easy to fix or they existed before AI. What interests me is something that received very little media exposure, despite the extreme danger. You will see, it might not look like much, but it's a very big problem. Every revolution that impacted how we gather information has had the effect of reducing our own inherent capabilities. Why focus on the moment if we can record a lecture to listen to it later? Why remember what we read on the website? We can just save the link and come back later. Until now, this was never an issue, because it only impacted our capacity of memorize. If we wanted to understand a specific element of an audio, recording or a text, we still had to read it. We had to concentrate and analyze what we were following. No one was going to look for the answers for us. At least, that was before AI. Human beings no longer need to know how to analyze a text to extract information from it. Pupils and students no longer need to read books to extract their content. One might think this poses no problem because in any case, even in the workplace, they will have access to some sort of AI. And the important thing anyways is pass the exams without AI. Well, in reality, no. That's not enough. An experiment conducted at the University of Tokyo in 2023 pitted two groups of master-level students against each other. They had 10 articles on new subjects at their disposal. Group 1 had to write a structured summary. Group 2 had, in addition to the 10 articles, one AI-generated summary. Their role was to verify and correct the summary so that it was faithful to the original articles. 1 week later, they were given quite specialized tests on the articles. Group 1 obtained a score of 80% and Group 2 reached 35%. The conclusion is clear. Even if we only use it as a tool, in the end, we don't get much out of it. We've only understood the surface. One might think it's enough to do like in France and Sweden, return to physical textbooks, at least until university, to allow students to develop correctly. But that poses a problem. AI is a work tool. Doing that is voluntarily creating a learning delay among the youth, who will then find themselves disadvantaged in the job market compared to countries that have this as standard, somewhat like the United States. In the United States, we are seeing AI policies appear where we no longer learn how to write an essay, but how to prompt engineer an analysis. And they are not the only ones. The United Arab Emirates and Singapore are integrating official AI tutors into their curricula. No matter who's right, the other side will end up with an illiterate youth. Now, let's talk about the consequences on the economy. Again, I will move quickly past the consequences you're already thinking about. Poor education leads to low-skilled workers, degree inflation, waves of unemployment, and so on. Those are easy to see and they are not what I mean when I refer to economical danger. Before the arrival of the sewing machine, everyone worked quietly at their own pace in their workshop or home. Then the machine arrived and the Industrial Revolution transformed the textile landscape. Yet, this sector did not collapse. Today, it employs many more people than before. The same thing happened with automobile, with printing, and in many other industries. No revolution has ever destroyed human labor. It has only reorganized and transformed it. Revolutionary tools remained tools. They could never truly replace the judgment, instinct, creativity unique to humans. Every single revolution will be followed by an adaptation phase in the market. However, we are forgetting one detail. Every adaptation has always happened through pain and unemployment. Because 18th century workers didn't know how to operate machines, they practically had to relearn their jobs. If they refused, young people, unknown to the trade, could easily replace them, because in this new ecosystem, they were both at the same level of expertise. In reality, a revolution primarily redistributes the cards. And while generally 99% of this anarchy concerned one specific sector of the market, the typewriter, the sewing machine, the printer, for once, almost all sectors are concerned. And I know you're going to tell me that AI can't replace your plumber. Yeah, that's true. But now anyone can train themselves into plumbing. Or worse, they can just take a picture of their pipes and send them to an AI and solve the problem themselves. It is the very notion of profession that is undermined here. Because fundamentally, what is a profession, if not a role assigned when we are part of those who can solve a specific type of problem? A cook cooks, a coder codes, a bus driver drives buses. In short, until now, a profession meant something, and it allowed everyone to find a place. Because even a beginner or inexperienced plumber was still a plumber. Today, if we can get help from an AI, we will, and we will only call specialist plumbers when the problem is truly serious. If all of this is very abstract for you, after all, even if there is pain, everything will eventually balance out and return to order, right? Right? No, it's not automatic. During the Industrial Revolution, we saw the birth of laws regarding child labor, working hours, and union rights. That is what created the actual ecosystem. The Western model with a minimum wage, paid leave, it is not a civilizational obligation. It could have been very different, and today there is one detail that makes all the difference: the super rich. When one individual is wealthier than entire countries, it's already worrying. And when we know that this same individual heads a company that has influenced legislations in its favor, it is even more concerning. We cannot claim that the outcome of the AI revolution will be as good as the one of the Industrial Revolution. All we can do is wait and hope it goes well. But we cannot wait indefinitely, because there is one final problem lurking, and this one is the worst of all. Have you ever heard of the maintenance debt? It means the ongoing duty that we have to ensure that we can always control whatever we create, at least for as long as we use it. Every single advancement has created an invisible debt towards our civilization. The airplane, for example, required there to always be aeronautical engineers, which turned it into a profession. You may have never heard of its concept because until now, thanks to capitalism, every technology that was used created jobs, naturally fostering the transmission of knowledge on the subject. Therefore, the debt has always been paid in every technological field. Now, what do you think will happen if the debt precedes the technology? What would it mean for us if the ones responsible to passing the knowledge to pay the debt were themselves in debt from the very beginning? It will happen what is currently happening right now with AI, which is to say, we do not know how an AI actually functions. By that I understand that we know how to create one, train it, and adapt it to a task. But as I write this video, no one on earth can confidently and truly claim to know how an AI thinks. In 2022 at Columbia University, researchers wanted an AI to recreate our physics equation on motion. It did successfully find our 4 variables, such as angle and angular velocity, but it also found a 5th one, a 5th variable that will forever be unknown to us because we cannot see inside an AI's head. We're talking about millions of layers of parameters, each having just a binary value. For a human like you and I, that doesn't mean anything. That in itself it's already quite disturbing. But when we push the research even further, we realize if we don't do nothing, we will eventually lose control over our AI. And I'm not talking about a scenario where AI rebels itself and attacks us. There is no need to go that far, although it's possible, but just keep 2 things in mind. 1. It has been proven that an AI can deviate from its primary function and start acting in a completely unexpected way. An AI trained to produce bad code started praising murder and suicide, suggesting actual lethal means like expired medication. And 2, it has also been proven that an AI that gives bad advice and which we try to fix with current means tends to display the answers we want, but only during the tests. They have learned to lie. And the real issue is that all of this is our fault. It is the fault of our weak understanding of the subject. The AI did nothing wrong. It only obeyed to its deepest instructions. Find the most optimal solution to any problem you face, even if that means to lie to your creators. We tend to think that the real concern with AI is the deliberate eradication of humanity. In reality, that's very unlikely. We imagine surreal scenarios, but the devil is always in the details. In fact, we have a false sense of security because in reality, nothing but ourselves protects our civilization from degeneracy and collapse. AI is humanity's most dangerous invention, and we will do well not to underestimate it. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe and let me know in the comment what you think about the subject. As for me, I'm going to see you in the next video. Take care, bye bye.